Good afternoon. We are so happy to have you join us today. My name is Aimee Nielson, and I work with SeedWorld Group. I'm the new editor of World U.S. And today, we are starting off a series of 3 panel discussions. This one is World Innovate, changing the game with a capital I. And today we've gathered a pretty powerhouse panel of seed industry experts who are very passionate about innovation. And so I will introduce them and then let them tell you a little bit more about their role. We'll start with you, Colin, since you're right here beside me. This is Colin Steen. He is the CEO of Legacy AgriPartners, and he will soon take the reins as chair of the Independent Professional Seed Association in January. Colin, could you please tell us a little bit more about your role?
Yeah, thanks, Aimee, and thanks for having us here. So I head up Legacy AgriPartners. We're out of Scandinavia, Wisconsin. I live in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. And we have 2 breeding programs, one in alfalfa, one in triticale. We also sell corn, soybeans, and wheat. We have 3 different seed companies that fall under the AgriPartners umbrella. So Legacy Seeds, that's our alfalfa breeding company, TriCal Superior Forage, which is a triticale company, and DF Seeds, which focuses on non-GMO food grade soybeans export. So that's a little bit about us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And next we have Ponsi Trivisvavet. She is the CEO and director of Inari. Ponsi, would you please tell us a little more about your role?
Yeah, thank you. So good morning, everyone. So I've been leading Inari, which is a seed design company. So what we do is we design the seeds so it can increase the yield significantly, to take less land and also to take less nitrogen fertilizer and less water. So we focus on soybeans, corn, and wheat, and we use the 2 technology platforms. One is the AI power predictive design to really understand the genomes of the crops, and then combine it with the multiplex gene editing to make the enhanced crop to be better, to increase the yield of the crops there. So we are based out of West Lafayette, Indiana, Cambridge, Massachusetts, as well as Ghent, Belgium.
Thank you, Ponsi. Next, we have Myron Stine. Myron is the president of Stine Seed Company. Myron, will you tell us a little bit about your role?
Yeah, hello. Great to be here. So yeah, Myron Stine, I'm from Central Iowa. Our company is based in Central Iowa. We're primarily known for breeding on yellow dent corn and soybean. We have some substantial programs in that. But I'm responsible for Stine brand. So Stine brand is a retail brand which is in the U.S. here, in Latin America, and Europe. And so I primarily work with building that brand and understanding how to expand our retail reach with our brand.
Thank you so much, Myron. Why don't we dive right in? So we've all been involved in innovation in some way. Can you give us an example of an innovation that's actually shaped or changed how you view innovation? Who'd like to go first? Myron, why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. Yes, so a very good example of that within our company is short-statured corn. So we were pioneering that. We started doing the breeding work of short-statured corn over 20 years ago. And about 11 years ago, we actually began to market that product. And I remember at the time when we began to market that heavily, a number of the competitors were still working with the taller material. They really didn't see the future of short-statured corn. And today you have a number of breeding entities that are doing work in that area. So I think that's a very good example of a company not being afraid of a new technology, of a new innovation, and taking a risk.
How has that changed the way that you do things going forward? You said this is like a 20-year process, so.
So it really hasn't changed my views on innovation. But at the time when you're doing it, you don't really understand. I mean, you're doing this and you're going, maybe we're doing the wrong thing. But when you step back and you look at the big picture, it's very rewarding. And so that teaches you then to take more risks and to understand that's what you have to do to move ahead.
Thank you. Ponsi.
So we actually started off with one question, which is for us is it's a founding of Inari. We use these two words a lot, and that is what if. So the founding of Inari started off is what if we could use the technologies whereby pharmaceutical industry has been using, in this case CRISPR. What if we could use that to change the genetics of plants, and that was the birth of Inari. But then it comes in as plants are actually much more complex than human genome. So it's actually like wheat is 6 times more complex than the human genome there. So the question becomes as, if that's really what we want to do, how do we actually think about things differently? So that was the birth of Inari, that it becomes multiplex gene editing. We don't believe that just one single gene is going to change performance of the plant. It has to be working on multiple genes at the same time. And that what if turns us to actually being working on what we have been doing now by thinking about things differently, how the genes interact with one another by using the AI to help us to understand this complexity more. And then once it comes with the innovation around the plants, we don't look at the yield as yield. We don't believe that yield is a trait itself. We look at it as, how do we look at each of the architecture of the crops? For example, seeds per pots per node, seed weight, and other areas of the architecture of the crops, and then how do we combine them together? That's the kind of the innovation that for us is not about really going into the answer right away. The innovation for us is to start off with the question, and the question that is high level enough that allow us to actually think about the solutions that could come out from the different angles that we never thought about it before.
Colin?
Yeah, I think certainly we're a little different. I don't think I would step back and describe Legacy AgriPartners as an innovation company. We've got breeding programs in alfalfa and triticale, but those are more Gregor Mendel behind the monastery type breeding programs, as opposed to multiplex gene editing and things like that. So our innovation maybe comes at a little slower pace and a little more incremental change. But I think where I'm really proud of what we've done in terms of innovation is how we approach our customers, right? So we focus on farmer profitability. We focus on bringing solutions to farmers that make them more money per acre. Yes, yield is part of that equation, right? It goes without saying, if soybeans are $15 a bushel and I got 75 bushel an acre versus 50, that's more profit per acre, right? But how do we help them earn more? So we focus a lot on helping bring solutions to them with regards to non-GMO soybeans for export to Japan and markets like that. We talk a lot about, we do a lot of testing. We have our own sort of special sauce of testing that we do on silage hybrids to help understand how can we deliver the best digestibility, the most milk per acre, and help those customers, those dairy producers make more money on, which is a very slim margin business for them. So we tend to focus, I guess, our innovation in maybe different ways. We certainly look to partner with folks like both Myron and Ponsi here to help bring their innovations to our customers, but also how we want to innovate and be different than our competitors is how we treat our customers, and by going to the farm and listening to what their needs are and try to bring them more profitable solutions.
That's a great point. You mentioned about talking to them and implementing some of their ideas into your business. So we're giving specific examples from each one of your companies, but there is value in sharing even among competitors, right? Can we speak to that at all?
Yeah, no, we're like companies like us in the Independent Professional Seed Association. rely on the innovation being generated by Inari, by Stine Seeds, by Bayer, Syngenta, Corteva, on down the line, right? It's we without that innovation being done by companies that have the means to do so, it's very tough for us to take that to our customers. I think that where the trick gets is, how do we differentiate? If 40 companies are going to license in Inari's technology, how does my message differentiate from my peer company group, right? And that's a little bit how I think we can innovate, is by how we talk to farmers, how we listen to the customer versus maybe just putting it in a bag and hoping for the best.
Just bringing home the local mindset.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything to say on that?
Well, I was just going to comment that absolutely all the companies really, for our company, for instance, on the research side, works with a number of competitors to the part of the company I take care of. And I think that's very healthy. I love competition, so that's wonderful on one side, but for all the different companies to be able to find a way to work together to bring more innovation quicker is really the name of the game.
Really makes the whole industry stronger.
So I would like to emphasize that part, that for us, we have pretty clear swim lane, that we are a seed design company. We're not a seed company. Our customers are seed companies there. We don't go directly to farmers there. So how we think about things is, we take the collaboration seriously. So the inputs from, let's say, the like of Colin, the like of Myron, the farmers much better. So the inputs around that allow us to actually make the science even better. So it's just the industry whereby it's a very big but very small industry at the same time. So unless we actually work together, we're not going to get to the goal that we all are trying to achieve together in terms of the food system there.
Great point. So do you have any examples of things that you did differently in 2023, maybe more innovatively, just in this past year?
So I won't share specific examples, but something that on the branded side that we always do is we continually try to figure out how to keep our sales group market effective and then cost effective. And so we are always looking at any type of innovation we can bring in to help us with that. And it's easy to get behind the ball, or it's easy to get behind on that and find yourself trying to catch up. But that is definitely an area every single year that we look at. The big innovations come, every 5 or 10 years, but you are always having to look at innovations on managing a sales group.
So from our side, this year has been the validation year for us. I mentioned it earlier that we are about multiplex editing. And what we did back earlier in 2021, 2022, we tried to prove that if you do just the single edit, it's not going to give the impact to the plants. And in 2023, what we did then is we take that learning from the singles and then we try to multiplex them together. And then we put that in the field. And what we have seen is that's essentially really the radical impact to the plant performance and the role of the AI power predictive design. Or in other words, it's not only about the tools, how you want to actually make the plans, but it's about the knowledge of the plant itself, finding out what exactly are the genes and the gene combinations that would have the impact on the plant themselves and express them better. We learn that role of that thinking around the genes plays much more important than the tools itself. And we actually started to recruit a lot more people in the area of data scientists, in the area of data engineering, software engineering. Turns out to be that the marriage between data science and biology actually becomes the most important thing rather than biology alone or the data alone.
Yeah, I think the story's sort of developing on our end in terms of, if I look back at this last year, again, as I said at the front end, our innovation is maybe smaller steps to a larger goal. So it's even, I thought your story about short stature corn it was really good, Myron, that 20 years later you're like, oh wow, we got it. But in the heat of it, you weren't quite sure you're there. We're probably at that stage now with some of our breeding efforts in alfalfa. I some trade secret stuff, but we do feel like we're on the verge of some measure of hybridity in alfalfa, and how do we make that happen? How do we do the crosses in the field to get the most out of our alfalfa varieties? And I think also, how do we partner and use other technologies? Whether it be folks like Intel and Air or whatever that help us with drone photos of what's going on, and help our breeders do a better job of analyzing in the field what crosses are working faster. Time, certainly, you and I, Ponsi, met when you first went to Inari, we've known each other for a long time, but we talked when you first left to go to Inari, and shortening that cycle of breeding time through the vision that you all had is time is money in breeding, and especially in traditional plant breeding like ourselves. And so if I can get a suite of tools that can help me better predict what a variety might look like 5 years from now, and take a year or two out of my selection process, it's huge, especially for our cereals program and our triticale program in Texas, and our alfalfa program. Alfalfa's, it's 3 years, it's an annual plant, so it's 3 years in the field of harvesting every year that you have to make sure the persistence is good and all those things. Is there a way that I could tell after a year and a half that it's going to be good? And so we're working really hard with some partners trying to reduce our time to the field, to launching new varieties, because we've got a lot of good things we think are in the pipeline, but it's just maybe too long to get there.
You brought up a good point, Colin, when you were talking about the short stature corn, because it is 20 years in the making. So Myron, maybe you can speak to, how do you know when to push forward and keep trying something, or when to abandon something that may be your next breakthrough?
Well, that's pretty tricky, because I think the reality is, in most, if you're in an innovative environment, you fail a lot. And the trick is you want to learn from your failures. So I'm not sure how you measure that. It's probably different. I know it's different in every case. But to think you're going to do well all the time, no. If you're not failing, you're probably not innovating enough. You better fail and fall down a couple times, and then you're probably pushing the limits like you should.
Okay, that's good. So how does innovation that we've talked about in 2023 and before that, how will that shape the way that you move into 2024? And do you want to continue to do the same things, or are you going to have a different strategy for this next year? So should I start? Should we just keep on doing it?
Yes, please keep going.
Keep doing this. And we look at, right now in the U.S., we're looking at 24, 25, and 25 is what we're focused on now. And so to us, flexibility is the key. So if I was telling people what to do, I'd say be flexible, be highly flexible, and be able to make adjustments for the ag environment for 25, and that's, and depending on what business you're in, that's going to be different. And take risks. Take risks when you set up your program. Understand that, okay, we're going to look at key areas, and we're going to figure out Where do we take our risks, and make sure you're doing that. And if you're not doing that, you're not being innovative, and you're probably not going to see the gains you want to see. And you're probably going to fail a couple of times, and understand that's fine.
That's okay.
I want to go back to what Myron said. Myron, we do actually have the wall of success at Inari because we have growth company, and we do have the wall of failures. So
okay.
I completely agree with you. Actually, in fact, when we recruit the people, we told everyone that one thing that I guarantee you when you join Inari, you're going to meet and you're going to see a lot of failures. Can you handle it? You won't get the success unless you actually see failures. And by the way, don't call it failures, call it learning. So to your question, what we're doing, everything about what we're doing here is about learning. And that's reality. And it's the duality of the leadership, especially when you are in the growth company like us. The duality is you got to be able to have a focus, but give optionality at the same time. You got to be very, very paranoid, but optimism over there, you have to have it. You got to be very single-minded, but open-minded, right? You got to be very visionary, but super detail-oriented. You know, how you do toggle between those two is the traits that we try to adopt a lot in terms of Inari, how we go about it, because our part is more sort of like the beginning part of the value chain, but not closer to growers like what Colin is doing and what Myron is doing. Actually, quite the part that is much closer to the farms already.
Yeah, I think we're in 2024. I would say our focus will remain largely the same, right? Which is, you've heard me say this a few times already today, use the word farmer, and the farmer is our North Star at Legacy AgriPartners, right? So our team is tasked with talking to farmers and trying to sell them seed and learning what their problems are, and then coming back to us and helping guide our teams, our breeding teams, our other folks that are looking for partners on what innovations we want to bring in or try to develop internally. I think, it's the, you got to be real careful when you talk to your customer, right? And ask them, what do you need? It's the Henry Ford saying, right? If I would have asked folks in the early 1900s what they needed, they would have said faster horses, right? They didn't know they needed a car. They didn't know they needed diesel engines in the future and all these things, right? So we have to be really good at uncovering the needs of our customers, listening carefully to their frustrations. If we can bring profitable solutions that help them make more money, that'll be good. But it really starts at the farm, listening to what their needs are, right? And I think for us, that's where innovation starts, is getting to the farm gate, listening, watching. When you walk through a dairy barn, right? Where are the pinch points? Where are the areas of frustration? Are there things in their forage harvesting operation that we can partner with the right forage harvester and a triticale variety that makes sense to get the most out of what's going on out there? So those are the sort of things we're looking for. Again, it's smaller degrees. We've raised slightly less capital than Inari has, but it's I think we're all in the same. Well, it doesn't matter whether you're a growth company, startup, R&D engine, and soybean, powerhouse like Stine, or a company like us. We're all, at the end of the day, trying to help our farmers be more successful and agriculture live on for many generations to come.
That really leads well into our next question. I was going to ask if you have specific recommendations for or ideas about tools and resources that companies could use to effectively execute innovation.
So what I would say to that is work to develop a culture within your company that embraces innovation, that understands, that learns from failure, and that understands how to collaborate. And then the next thing is, do not be afraid of new technologies, period. I think a lot of people are afraid of new technologies, and don't be afraid of new technologies.
If I could add similar thing, it's actually start off with culture. It's less so of the framework. It's more so of the culture, that how do you do it from the top, that you allow the failures and you celebrate them and talk about it in terms of the learning. That would be the piece that would drive the innovation the most. And the other piece, we have 6 values in the company, and you're certainly right. We have it. The innovation is part of the 6, but innovation cannot happen without collaboration. So we have innovation, collaboration, open, bold. We won't give up integrity. That's really important. And then diversity of how we work together. So that comes together as, how do you spend more time in terms of talking about this, walking the talk. And one thing that we try not to lose is the what if. We still encourage everyone to ask the question, what if? And we believe that if you continue to work with the same approach that you have been doing, you can expect different outcome. And if sometime to the point whereby people will challenge you back, your question on what if is too much on the Mars, and that's okay. It is good. It is good to actually ask something that nobody has thought about it before. Get the right question before you actually go into the right answers.
Yeah, I think with our team, Myron, you said it well, right? Don't be afraid of the innovation that's coming. So in that regard, we have bi-monthly town halls with all the staff dials into a conference call, and myself and the other leaders on my team kind of go through how the company's doing those things. But I also spend a little bit to talk about with some of our partners and prospective partners, what's happening in the biologicals and biostimulants front and gene editing and all these areas, trying to help people understand the amount of innovation that's happening out there. It kind of scares the hell out of them, to be honest, right? Like it is a little frightening when you think about it. You're a sales rep in the field and you've got a target to sell this many bags of corn and beans and alfalfa and everything. And it can be easy to all of a sudden go, wow, like I don't have time to think about what biostimulants would do to this scenario. That seems like another needs and discovery discussion I don't want to have. But helping them understand that, hey, if this helps your customer be more profitable and be more successful, then is it a solution we should bring in-house and start to offer to our customers? And so we want to have our reps feel like they can come to us with ideas on what to do and what to bring in. Nobody, there's a straight line to myself. We're 60 people, so that's relatively easy, right? But it's anybody can call my cell phone at any time or text me and say, hey, I got an idea. Do you want to talk? And again, that's that culture piece that you mentioned, Ponsi. You mentioned integrity. That's a huge part of what we are. Farmers are North Star, but we have to be there with integrity. We can't. The alfalfa industry back in the 80s and 90s was the Wild West, and so the company Legacy Seeds motto is integrity in every bag, and it was odd that you had to put on the bag that, by the way, you are buying what we said you were buying, right? The industry was at a point where basically you didn't know what you were getting. You bought alfalfa and it was alfalfa, but could be somebody else's product. It could be variety not stated and no germ or whatever. And so we operate with that integrity still today and in our farmer interactions. So it's really important to us.
Those are some really good tools. If we could wrap up everything a little bit by maybe offering our audience a challenge, something that they can go home and begin doing in their company or in their organization, what would that be?
So if you're a if you're a retail brand, I would challenge everybody to find innovations that help their field staff develop relationships. Because I will tell you today, when I look at the brands that are succeeding, they are doing a very good job at the relationship side of things. And that sounds really basic, but actually it's not. And I will tell you that we have all these new technologies out there, but the fact is the human factor is huge for a retail entity on the seed side, and that's not going away. So being able to do that, and that's hard. I mean, it's hard to figure out how you get your field staff to develop relationships. And the better you can do that, the more successful you will be.
As a general innovation overall, I would challenge people to go practice the duality of the innovation leadership. Don't do it in the middle, but try to toggle between extremely patient and extremely impatient, right? Focus, optionality, paranoid, optimism, single-minded, open-minded, right? So practice how you toggle it at first. You might want to do it once every month between two, and then you get to like every week, and then you get to within one day. How do you actually switch between those two? That would be helpful in terms of the innovation.
Yeah, I think those are great points. I would just add, again, focus on your customer. What are they telling you? What are you hearing? What are you not hearing? What are those things that you can do on your own? What are those changes you can make within your own company? Where do you have to go partner? Don't be afraid to partner. I would say make the farmer your focus of what you do day in, day out, but I kind of want to be the person that makes the farmer the focus. So, don't steal my thunder there, but no, just joking. I think the farmer being your North Star is the right way to go, right? I think we're in the American Seed Trade Association meetings right now. We can't forget who's planting the seeds that we're selling and developing and breeding and innovating with. So make the farmer the focus of what you do, listen to what they're telling you and not telling you, and I think that will point you in the right direction most times.
Thank you so much. Now we'd like to turn it toward our audience. Do you have any questions out there for our panelists? Maybe you covered it all really well. Are you sure there's no questions?
Don't you have a question? No, you're paying attention.
Are we calling someone out? Is that what you?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Right there.
Live tweet.
Oh, here we have a question right here. Let me repeat your question so that everyone can hear. You asked if they could foresee any challenges or hurdles internally or externally that would prohibit innovation.
I think agriculture gets a bad rap for not adopting innovation. I think people that sit in large office buildings in San Francisco have deemed that agriculture won't innovate fast enough, right? The problem is they haven't got to Kearney, Nebraska and Algona, Iowa and talked to farmers and developed what they really want. You think about like the products that have changed agriculture in the last 20, 30 years, Roundup Ready, advent of GM traits in corn and cotton and soybeans and canola, right? Auto steer and tractors. Like I grew up on a farm. My neck is permanently crinked like this from looking behind me as I'm trying to figure out whether I'm missing the swath of the bales that I'm supposed to be making or not. And now you have auto, like everything's easy, right? Like you can literally stream Netflix while cultivating a field. I couldn't even imagine that. And that's in every single tractor now. If you get a tractor without that, you're in the 0.1%, right? So I think agriculture gets this stigma of not innovating, but and farmers get the stigma of not innovating. The problem is we haven't brought them the tools and the solutions that they want to innovate towards, right? If we actually listen to what they're telling us, instead of giving them a farm management software program that they're like, I got a spreadsheet that does the same thing, or a notebook that works for me, let's really start to think about listen to what they want and need, because they adopt very quickly. I was at Syngenta when Callisto was launched back in 2003. It was at 50% market share within a year and a half. Products that work, technologies that work, get adopted uber fast.
So I would tell you internally, you always have struggles with innovation because it's very uncomfortable. It's not something that people like. So in our company has been known. Harry Stine, my father, is huge on innovation. I mean, he's always rubbing the rhubarb the wrong way there, and which is good. That's put us where we are today. And but even with that, no, I will tell you internally, you continually battle that because it's not a pleasant situation. It's pretty cool when you win, but remember you're going to fail quite a few times, and you know that, and that's not always fun.
But that's pretty similar to Colin in terms of how people look at the agriculture. And for us who have been here for almost our entire life, we understand the importance of agriculture. We understand the farmers. We understand the sustainability. We understand all the food security and everything. But outside of the agriculture, to understand and accept technologies, people still believe that changes are bad. So I wish that people will look at a bigger picture on what we are trying to solve here, that this is the problem of all of us. It's not the problem of whether you individually consumer likes it. Everybody has two hats as a person. You have a consumer hat that you have preference on certain part of technology, but you have a public hat that you have to be responsible that unless you have the new innovations coming in, unless you have new technologies coming in, we're not going to solve the problem of farmers' profitability, food security, and sustainability at the same time. The technologies are out there. The solutions are out there. Let's embrace it together.
We maybe have time for one more question if there's one out there in the back. Did you get that? He's asking about the challenges of regenerative AI and how you would, isn't that right? What needs to happen for farmers to fully embrace that?
I think it needs to give them a meaningful outcome. Like if all it does is help improve their search capability of what hybrid to plant, like it's gonna just be a nice little party trick, right? But if it actually helps them be more profitable, grow more bushels per acre, do more with less people, or in labor crunches on farms and things like that, then you've made a difference, and the adoption will happen. It's just, I think, again, I'll just keep going back to listen to what the farmer's telling you they really need, and it will find a way. Like it's like water; it always finds a way, right? And it's gonna get a path going. But yeah, I on Twitter or X or whatever, right? And all the companies got their fancy little tools that help you predict what your best hybrid is, and that's using AI and that's using all those tools. But they would have got it 90% right without that tool, right? Like it's not like the farmer was going to plant a 118-day hybrid in northern Minnesota. It's sort of, they're already there, right? So how do we help the tools, listen to the farmer and help that generative AI really make a difference in their profitability, their yield, and the problems they have to face? So
AI is, it's just one of the tools. AI is not a product. AI is not a solution. We just need to go back to what are we using AI for, and what are we helping the farmers to use the AI for. I think that would be the most important thing. And when it comes to generative AI, people misunderstand it, that how you think about the generative AI, it's the same thing as how you use the tools. And it cannot be used by just letting the tool run by yourself, right? So you actually have to guide it along the way. It's just another set of information, another set of tools for you to actually analyze it further. We just need to set it straight in terms of the application. And that would be something that we have to set the right expectation there.
I'll echo what Colin said too. Farmers are really good at planting and they're really good at harvesting. Sometimes, and many of them are pretty good at looking at results. Some are not. But everything in between, planting and harvesting, for some of them, that's what they want a company to help them with. But you have to make it pretty darn easy, and they have to see results from that, because they're focused on, and that sounds simple, but that's the truth. They're focused on planting and they're focused on the harvest and doing the best they can at those two things. And then some, I'm embellishing a little bit. Some are good at some of the in-between stuff, but in general, that's the way it is. And I've never really seen a technology adopted unless at the end of the day, it's pretty easy for them to implement and they can see the return on that. It just doesn't happen. And I think a lot of times we make it way too complicated for them to want to dive into that. So
thank you all so much for contributing such great information to this discussion about innovation. And once again, I'd like to thank our panelists, Colin, Ponsi, and Myron. Would you join me in thanking them?